Did it finally warm up? I haven't been out.
All right, we're about to go live here.
Cool.
Wait for the button on Instagram to populate. All right, man. We are live. Welcome to another week. And Tim, I don't know if you realize this. This is week number 20 of Chicago Landlord Secrets. So we've done this 20 weeks in a row. And there's no recording 6 episodes and taking 6 weeks off like I do with the podcast sometimes.
Yeah.
But with this one, it's like you don't show up, you don't get a show that week. So I think it's a different type of
commitment. And
yep. So
for sure. We do the same for our podcast where we might record 2 or 3 and then, take a while, take a little bit off and come in the studio once a month or once every couple of weeks. And so absolutely.
But man, lots going on this week. I know you may be texting back and forth, lots to share. Not all good news. Some just kind of neutral news, and then some to be determined yet. So what do you got here? Where are we kicking off at?
Well, let's start with the we did last week is all good news, and unfortunately we got to break that already. But the general session for the state of Illinois has ended as of. They went all the way till 2 a.m. on, was it Saturday or Sunday? I don't actually know if that meant like Saturday night 2 a.m. or Sunday morning 2 a.m. But the session ended. We'll get the news. It was almost hard to find news on the Build Act and on the budget and on everything else because the breaking news was that the Bears Stadium had no deal. But a few days later, we got some information. So the Build Act was denied. Which is the government Pritzkers. We've talked about on the show quite a bit. They were trying to take away the power from villages and communities to decide if a multifamily building can be zoned and changed for a property. So that was denied. However, there are several parts of it that are being put up as separate bills now. And we can sort of run through those crazy ones really quick. So
let me before I understand this. So the big one, the big build one that just had so many different components, and there's some good to it, and but a lot of the mayors push back. You're saying now that's being kind of tossed out, and potentially they're going to take they're proposing parts of that bill to be voted on as kind of an individual basis versus the big bulky one, right?
Correct, exactly. So instead of what you always hear about the pork, where they take one small bill and then add 100 things to it to pass through other things, this big bill got denied, and now they're saying, all right, let's make a bunch of small bills and see if we can get anything through. So here are some of the highlights. Senate Bill 329, and I guess I'll say it first before I comment. But State Senator Steve Stadelman from Rockford prohibit a landlord who's hired a broker or leasing agent to help rent out a unit from passing those fees on to a tenant. Have you ever heard of like this is what I don't get outside of New York? Have you ever heard of that happen? Like, have you ever heard of that being a thing?
No. And when I heard that, I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. That sounds fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think New York City is the only place I've ever seen that where that's a thing, and I think that's crazy. 100%. I think that's crazy that New York does that, where they're paying first month's rent and all this other stuff. I mean, granted, though, they find an apartment and their rent doesn't get raised for a decade, but so there's some winning there too. But
I wonder how much of that's for show of like, hey, we passed this now. Tenants won't. Where maybe most tenants or voters don't even realize that's not even an issue. So, but either way, if that's something we got to follow, then we'll follow that one.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. So we'll take that's one that we can give them and say, hey, vote in that one. Get your publicity in and call it a day. So then, Senate Bill 330, Senator Guzman from Chicago would prohibit discrimination against survivors of domestic, sexual, or gender-based violence in a real estate transaction. Honestly, I mean, I see nothing wrong with that, and I think that's great. I sort of thought we already had that in Illinois, but I guess there's different wordings on it. But again, I don't see anything negative on that one. I don't think anyone should be discriminated for anything like that. So for sure. I think that's fine. Senate Bill 331 from Ventura and Joliet impose annual fees on private equity firms who own more than 10 single-family homes or 8 multi-unit buildings. The firms would also have to wait 90 days to buy from the time a property is listed.
So I guess the thing that left me open, that gave me more questions than it did resolve, because like, is it literally have to be a private equity structure, or is like a big landlord counted in that?
That's exactly the question I had on that. Like, is it just attacking Blackstone, or is it, I mean, and I think PE is even a weird way to put it, because if you're just saying private equity, that means family offices don't count. Also, a syndication wouldn't be a private equity, right?
Yeah, correct.
Like, so you're taking out a lot of things. And a corporation, I don't even know, would Blackstone still be considered PE, or are they just a huge corporation now?
They're still, the way they're probably set up for these funds for real estate, it probably is a PE structure. So okay. I would assume that.
So it sounds like it's just attacking specifically them, or the few companies that are out here doing that. It's interesting to me that they included multifamily on this, because you're really not, I mean, what's the odds of a multifamily building not being bought by an investor? Like,
I know. Yeah. So I guess the question, and I asked B-Beck, this was about the private equity side. What defines that? So in all reality, this probably doesn't affect anyone watching this if that's the case, which would be nice, because when I first read it, I got scared.
Yep. Now the flip side of that is if they decide to go, because on the national level, right, they're going to start restricting. It's still going back and forth, but I have a feeling it's going to get passed eventually, some iteration of it. But as of right now, any single person that has equity in 100 units won't be able to buy another single family home. So it would be interesting to see if after this gets bounced around, it might pass the Senate and go to the House, and the House changes the word PE to investor, right? And that's where it gets scary, is those little changes of one word that changes things for everyone. So it's good to have on the radar. If it passes as is, I don't think it affects anyone. But if they change the word PE to family office or LLC or anything like that, then it could become a bigger issue. All right, we move on. Senate Bill 332 from Simmons in Chicago. Grant a right of refusal to residential property that's put up to sale. And it would likely be, and he would also like to pair that with state funding to support the building purchases.
This one's scary.
This is basically the 606 law advanced to a state level, is what it sounds like to me. So you're gonna have to, in order to sell a building, you're gonna have to go get your tenants to sign off to let you sell the building, and then if they want to buy it, there may be funds for them to buy it.
God, this one is just fucking dangerous. Like I just can't believe our people that represent us think, hey, this is a good idea. We should slow down the entire. I mean, what I think we miss the boat on sometimes is how much the real estate economy moves the rest of the economy. Mm-hmm. When people are moving, buildings are moving, the title companies, the Home Depot, the construction, the permits, the trades, the unions, even sometimes for these bigger buildings, like, man, and they just pretty much said, hey, let's take another year to do any sort of real estate transaction that can literally close in weeks now. Mm-hmm. This one is dangerous.
I mean, the other side of it, though, is, especially if we're talking about like 4 flats or 5-unit buildings and stuff like we are in the 606, how many tenants are either in a position that they can do it, or they want, like, for me, most renters are renting either because they don't have the money to buy and take care of a property, they're too old or too young to physically take care of a property, or they know they're not going to live there for a long time. They're a transplant, they're working for 2 years, and they're going to go back to their home office. How many of these renters are going, oh yeah, no, I've always wanted to buy this building, I just didn't have the opportunity?
Well, man, I think so. Even if you wanted to do some level of this, we talked about this when the Northwest Preservation Act came out. It's like, all right, so make it realistic. Make it you have 7 days. If you put it out to your building, you have literally 7 days to either qualify yourself. Right now, if you're a realtor and a buyer comes in, what do you ask for? You ask for a pre-approval, right?
Yep.
So some sort of pre-approval that you can actually buy it. And then you have maybe 14 days to make the decision. So now you're at like 2 weeks. Like that's very realistic. And I imagine, like any sort of pyramid, the first amount, a chunk of people would fall off because they just can't qualify. Then the second would be, I just don't want to do it because it doesn't make sense for my situation. So now if you're going to do something like that, that's great. But man, like the way that and I don't want to go into that one, but like it just slows down everything.
Yeah. And have you, and I haven't, so I'm curious, have you heard of any tenants purchasing a property?
Not in this capacity, maybe a single family home from time to time. But that's,
well, I just mean from the 606 in general. I mean, like for single family homes and condos, when we do it all the time, where you have a younger tenant that is living in the home and they are in a spot where they could buy, we'll help them and coach them through getting pre-approval so they can buy it. And the owners love it because they don't have to pay a buyer's agent commission. Everything's done for them, and it's a quick sale. But for a multi-unit building, it makes no sense.
Well, the 2 and 3 unit buildings, what I've seen and heard people doing, just empty out the building. I got a vacancy coming out, and I just got to get this other person out, and my 2 flat, I'll sell it vacant. I don't got to deal with any of that. So now you just displace 2 people, and you have 2 units that'll sit vacant for maybe 60, 90, 120, who knows? And then the next buyer comes in, and it takes them 6 months to fill out that vacancy because they don't get around to it right away. Like you're just literally taking that right off the table, and you're literally kicking people out of their house to avoid the law. That's the workaround. Get rid of people.
And you wait. You make the decision to sell. You kick them out, and then you make the decision to sell once you have a vacant building. That's the how can you prove that I was intending to sell when I kicked them out? No, I had a vacant building, and I made a mistake. I don't want a vacant building. I'm just going to sell it.
Well, I think the other thing too is you end up just holding the property. Then I've talked to people, and I know I would probably think about this as well too myself. If I got a 5 unit in Logan, screw it. That will just be part of my long-term plan. That thing will never sell again, and I will just try to milk it forever. And now you just have no turnover of property and so forth. So now you're taking all transactions off the table, which then ties into the all right, I would have bought a bigger building, fixed it up, and this and that, the kind of the roll up, or it rolls into now you're not getting your think about this in a transaction, how much money the city gets every time a property transacts. It's crazier than any of the suburbs, anything like that. So it totally handicaps everything.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden all of it, property taxes go up because there's less income coming in, and then rent goes up. And now this whole thing to try to make things more affordable makes it less affordable. Same thing.
All because we didn't help people build 10 years ago.
People build now.
More, build faster. Like that's it, man. That's all this comes down to.
I was just talking to another contractor that we're doing a project on. It's like a project with, I should say. And it's like, if the city and the state would just let people build and not make it so hard to get permits and to get permission and things like that, we would have enough housing. And then once there's enough housing, now you have competition. And if a house is renting for $1,200 and I'm listing for $1,300, the $1,200 gets rented, mine doesn't. So now I have to go to $1,150 to get that tenant over. And it creates housing affordability because there's competition. The amount of restrictions right now, the amount of homes throughout this state, especially in the south suburbs, that are just basically ready to be torn down because like cities like Markham don't want investors there. You can't tell me you rather have buildings that look like they're burnt halfway down than to let renters into your village, and that's a better thing. I mean, it's just not. It's a crazy thought.
Well, the crazy thing that I can't get out of my head, and we're going down a rabbit hole of just negativity, but and we could talk about what takes to take action here. But anything built in 2015, 14, 15 would be affordable now. A lot of people are like, oh, that's not affordable. Anything that was built 10, 12, 15 years ago is going to be affordable today. So anything built today will be affordable 15 years from now. So there is a tail a lag in becomes affordability, but you're always 15 years behind. So it's like now you just got to overbuild if anything now. So what's up next? What else we got next on there?
Before that, I'll make one comment on that too. The other part of that is if you make housing stock that the middle class wants to buy, or even the upper class, right? If you build a brand new house that's $1 million, the person with the $800,000 house can then sell their house and buy the $1 million house. Now there's inventory at $800,000. The person with $600,000 house that's been waiting for a decent $800,000 house, it's the only trickle down economics that actually works.
So true.
They sell their house, and then that allows the person below them to buy it, and it creates it. All right, next one.
Literally, the $700,000 house being built somewhere in the suburbs right now allows somebody to rent or buy that $150,000 to $200,000 condo somewhere 4 or 5 rungs down the ladder. Like that literally is what that does here.
That's where we're struggling right now. There's nowhere for middle and lower class to buy because you can't get grandma to move out of her 5-bedroom house because she can't find a nice 2-bedroom that doesn't need a lot of work. It's
huge.
All right, Senate Bill 608. I'm not going to try to say the last name of who pronounced it. It's a lot of V's. Establishes that housing authorities and private owners of subsidized housing can't mandate work requirements or place time limits on residents.
I wasn't sure what to make of this, so breaking it down.
So here's the practicality of it, right? There are some landlords that will say, hey, you need to make 3x your income. Or most landlords at this point will say 3x your income. Once it becomes once it's a CHA tenant, for instance, some landlords will still try to say, hey, your portion is $100, so therefore you have to make $300 a month to prove that you can pay the $100 a month. That's part of it. That part I sort of understand and agree. I do think that there should be more of a mandate than that the government has to better guarantee that rent, that if it's not paid. I personally think that Section 8 would be a much better program if the rent was paid to the owner and then Section 8 can go and try to collect their $100 from the tenant and they can deal with all that. Because that's the part that's misaligned.
Are you saying that now? We do underwrite like that. If it's we have a 3 times rule, but we have between 2.5 and 3 times the rule. That's kind of our range we have. And you're saying now if their portion's 100, they don't even have to prove they make $300. Like, is that what you're saying? I mean,
none of this has passed yet, but yeah,
that's hypothetically.
But hypothetically, that is part of it. And then they're also trying to, and I think this is them seeing what Trump has proposed and trying to make laws against it, but they're also trying to say that, hey, if you are on Section 8, because and this is where, this is where I will get a little, this is more political than actual talk or whatever, but like if you are Section 8 and you grew up in it and you turn 25 and you get the voucher because your parents had it, that there's no incentive for you ever to get a job and get off the program. I think that's what a lot of people have issues with. That there should be an incentive. If you're able to work, just like unemployment, you can't sit on unemployment for 10 years when you're able to work. Housing should be the same. Like you should be trying to get a job. And this wants to eliminate that, where it will try to force them to try to go into the workforce. So basically it incentivizes them to just stay at home and not ever work because then housing's free.
And that part of that proposal is more on the housing authority, not on landlords, though, correct? They're basically saying the housing authorities can't now put the pressure to
right. I think that's a direct reaction to some of the stuff that Trump has said about trying to weed out and trying to move people and getting people off programs. But I think, you can have your opinion on it one way or the other. I don't think that will affect us as landlords. It's more of just a, what do you think about things type thing? Because, we're going to spend the same amount of money on CHA every year of our tax dollars, no matter what. Personally, I think, you teach someone to fish versus giving them fish all the time, but I don't think it will actually affect us at all. But morally, it's weird to me. All right, last one I got here on the state level. Senate Bill 635. I'm just going to say Senator Sarah, because I'm not another last name I'm not going to try to pronounce, from Chicago. Would allow faith-based organizations to build affordable multi-unit housing by right on land they own. I think we're just going to let's get all these passed, and then we'll just see private equity turn into churches. That way they don't have to pay tax. I don't know. I mean, that's fine. Whatever. If you want to build multifamily house on the church property, I don't think that bothers anyone.
That could be valuable because I think about was it St. Edmunds down there in Woodlawn? Call it 59th and Prairie. They're on Prairie, Michigan, somewhere right there. They own a lot of that land there, but it took them 4 or 5 years to get the zoning change to be able to build those multifamilies that they built there because it was not zoned for that. And they had to purge a bunch of pins or parcels that they had, and so I consider it's beneficial. Now, these churches also have tax loops and all that stuff that ultimately motivate them to build more, which is not, that's great. If they want to put housing stock in, I really don't care about the incentives they get. And so that one I could agree with, or I'm
fine with it. It's funny, in high school, I had a project in one of my social studies classes where we had to create a religion, just to show, like, not actually create a religion, but go through like the process of getting like a church authenticated as a church, as like a nonprofit and stuff like that, and sort of learn the process. We never actually submitted it or anything like that, but I can see people all of a sudden, you know, I can see some guy on the street when this passes being like, you know what if this is a religion? What if, you know? So it'll be interesting. So that's at the state level. You got anything non-depressing to go into, and then we can touch on the city real quick, or you want to just jump into the city?
No, man, let's keep it up. So maybe we could just get all the sad stuff out and
finish on the highlight. Yeah.
Well, here, before you dive into that, I want to throw out there, because if anyone falls off watching this, there's ways to, and the word maybe right where it's not opposed, but kind of have a voice in this, right? So right now you might be listening to this thinking, geez, why these idiots, why are these people making these laws? They don't even know what I need as a citizen or as an investor or whatever it might be. But you have a voice, and you have a voice through organizations like the MBOA. You go to MBOAchicago.com you could sign up for their free newsletter that talks about this stuff. You could through CAR, if you're a realtor, or if you have a realtor in your family, or they also have a lot of influence inside of Springfield. Same if you're a realtor, you know, through IAR, Illinois Association of Realtors, huge influence. CAA, Chicago Apartment Association, they also have a huge influence on this. And you got BOA, Building Owners, BOA, Building Owner Management Association. Now that's more on the commercial side, but they do have influence in Springfield as well too. And all these organizations are ways that you as an everyday investor are able to at least either A, track what's going on in addition to following us, or B, maybe find a way to speak up or join in on messaging, getting the message out to your representative.
Yep. Speaking of representatives, Chicago reps. Unfortunately, neither of us get to vote in this, but we're rallying the troops here. Johnson just came out last week as well with a proposal for, I don't want to call it rent control, but for a new RLTO rules. So here's the gist of the breakdown. I'll go one by one again, and we can go each one. But the first one, rental registry and fees, establishes Chicago's first citywide rental registry to track units that's funded by an annual landlord fee ranging from $20 to $60 per unit.
My response to that is they struggle to manage. You're going to create a whole nother department. That's great. I'll pay it as far as it goes. But like the effectiveness and their ability to do it will kind of be these towns with 1,000 rentals struggle to organize that efficiently.
I mean, I in theory, like you said, right? In theory, I'm okay with it. It's not the worst thing. It seems fine. CHA right now is taking over 60 days to get a tenant in. Can you imagine if now all of a sudden the same people that are running CHA have to approve your apartment every time you want to put a tenant in?
Which is pretty much the same thing. I mean, CHA is run by the city of Chicago. They're a governmental arm of them, and that's what the scary part is. Like,
yeah.
How long does it take you to get a permit approved? Like everything if you got a water problem issue, like you've got to pull teeth and lose sleep. Like, so it's like, now it's like, do you really want to do that to the people of Chicago? This is what I propose. Charge the fee and don't do the inspection.
That's
the maximum amount of, they can make the most profit and not slow down business. Cause that's what used to happen when I first started investing in Chicago. If you had a building 4 units or up, you had to pay a $50 or $100 fee a year. And then also one year I mailed it in and they mailed it back, which I was surprised. They mailed it back and said, yeah, we don't do this anymore. So it's like, man, that just fell off. Like they weren't inspecting it. They just it was like a multi-family license or whatever.
It fell off right around the time I got into property management, and this is how I know the story, and I know it existed before, because one of the first buildings I took over had a city violation that they were fighting for like 2 years, and it was for not registering.
Yeah.
I went to the thing. I was like, "You guys don't have a registry anymore. Can we just get this wiped?" And they're like, "Yeah, that's a good point. All right."
That's funny. I had a couple of those too. That is funny. But yeah, that's the best way to make money. If we have to do it, our investors have to do it, just the cost to call it additional tax, which, you know, if you want to tax the rich, that's a fair way that politicians can spin that. And then the inspection part is just a mess, dude. I can't imagine them being able to orchestrate that.
No, I agree. And here's my counter offer to Mayor Johnson, because I know he watches this show and is our biggest fan. Tax the shit out of these vacant properties that are being held vacant as just to hold money. Like, there's so many vacant storefronts and so many vacant homes in Chicago that are just money laundering, for lack of, I mean, it's not drugs, but it's like tax evasion or whatever you want to, it's legal, right? But it's a way around paying tax on them. It's a loophole. I'm going to buy a property. I'm never going to touch it. I'm going to let it deteriorate on the south side somewhere. And then I'm going to write off the value so I don't have to pay taxes.
Oh, the amount of vacancy in property tax to give away on, call it your 28 unit corner building with retail on the first floor that's all boarded up, or you have one liquor store. I believe it's as long as you have over 48% or something like that. Don't quote me on that number. Vacancy, which is not if you have 10,000, it's really 2 or 3 storefronts. You actually make more money to keep those vacant than you do actually filling them up, collecting the rent, managing them, and doing good for the neighborhood.
Yeah, so I would 100%.
That's a Cook County problem, though. That's not
that's true. We're talking about Chicago, though, so that's a Chicago and a Cook County thing. But all right, let's go on to the one that I think is probably the worst out of all of them. But just cause evictions. I think we've been battling this since 2020, I think, on and off. But it's back in the news. So you have to give a valid reason on why you're evicting someone. And also, if you just non-renew someone because you don't like them or because you want to do repairs or whatever, you need to pay. It's going to be relocation assistance. So I don't know if you remember Lori Lightfoot's version of this during COVID, but it was like 4 months rent, 5 months rent if you tried to kick someone out during COVID. It doesn't specifically say what the value would be, but that's sort of again, I think it's a misuse of private, or a taking of private property, right? You're going to tell me I can't make people vacate. I have to keep them there for as long as they want.
What would be a reason example you'd want to get rid of somebody that this might catch you up on, or would force you to change something?
Wanting to make repairs.
Is that not a valid reason? I want to develop my property to add tax tax base. And
valid reason is rent payment missing or lease violation.
Gotcha. So that's tough. So basically anything and everything. Now, I mean, and I'm not trying to just drill out loopholes here, but then you end up, as long as rent control doesn't come into play, you can just raise rent and you can, and there's always loopholes, right? And I'm just kind of thinking out loud right now, but
you'd raise rent until they're out. But again, I think that if something like this comes, you're going to look at Rogers Park, that tenant union that's already showing up.
I know.
They're like, the guy bought the building and is trying to raise rent to try to get it to market, and now they're all unionizing. So I think it's not going to be as easy as just raise the rent in a few years. But
let me ask this though: what problem does this solve then? I guess share that with listeners here. By the just cause eviction, why do they put it in place? Why does the City of Chicago think this is a valuable tool to protect tenants?
It's a good question. My thought is there's some story that was heard at some point where a tenant and the landlord didn't like each other, and the landlord told them to move. I don't know who they're protecting with this, really. I mean,
I could see like an anti-gentrification type thing, where it's like, back to the 606, where it's like you keep buying these buildings to keep people out. Now the building goes from 200 to a brand new $1.4 million building. It makes it unaffordable for people that want to stay in the neighborhood. I can see that,
I mean, I'll I'll put a point here, right? Look at New York. Look at these buildings that are on rent control. If you walk through them, those are the buildings that are falling apart.
Yeah.
You know, it's you're literally saying, hey, I don't want you have buildings that are 100 years old that need to be reconstructed or gut rehabbed and are falling apart and have asbestos, have lead, have all this stuff that, oh, by the way, a landlord can get sued for, and any kind of health stuff that comes from that. But we don't want to let you kick them out so that you can actually do the remediation. The other side of it, right, to your point in gentrification, I'll tell you what the fix is. And I just learned this recently, so I don't know if everyone knows this or not. But did you know in California, if you buy a house for $300,000 10 years ago, do you know what your and the property values all went up? Do you know what your property tax is based on?
Your purchase, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
That would solve the issue of gentrification. Gentrification happens because I'm an older lady or older male family or whatever. I don't work on Social Security, and I've been paying $500 a year in property tax because I bought my house for $50,000, and now it's worth $1 million because all of my neighbors rebuilt their property, and now my property tax is $20,000 a year. That's what causes gentrification. It's not that the property around them is getting nicer; it's the fact that their tax rate is going up because of it.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. If anything, I not too much I like about California, but that is one of them. So
yeah, it's I don't know. It's something to think. I mean, but that would cause the city to have to look at themselves and Cook County to have to look at themselves and put the blame on themselves, which is probably not going to happen.
For these Chicago proposals you're putting out there, where's that at in the stage? Are these just proposed and these going to be voted on anytime soon? Is there a summer break for the aldermen like there is the state? Maybe give a little rundown on where some of the city stuff could potentially go next and how quick.
Yeah, so I mean, the good news is it's completely a Mayor Johnson proposal, so they're going to have to talk about it. He can force that, but he hasn't lately, at least in the last year or so. The aldermen haven't really bowed to him at all, in the sense of like there's been no cooperation. So if they don't like anything, which obviously I think this one's going to get a lot of pushback, it's not going to get through, hopefully. But at the same time, if he can find enough friends to force a vote, then there's always that possibility.
Yeah, it's always that risk.
It's going to be a lot of it's going to be a lot of back and forth. I do not believe the aldermen get the same type of break that like the state Senate does. But it's still far away, but it's closer than we need it to be, if that makes sense.
After the preservation one came out 2 years ago now in Logan, up there, Logan, Avondale, Cragen, you just never know, I guess. Things could slip through overnight, and I think that was the first thing that passed through Chicago that everyone was really taken back for, and they never thought it could move that fast. So I think everyone's got their eyes open a little, or they're watching a little closer, I guess. So
yeah. All right, 3 out of 4 part junk fee ban and transparency, which the state just passed the big one. This one goes further to prohibit application fees.
Prohibit it all, so you can't even charge an application fee?
That's what it says.
In Chicago. Oh, this is Chicago specific, right?
Yep. Also, you have to disclose if you use algorithmic pricing tools.
Gotcha.
Which that's fine. If you want to know that I used the tool that I used an algorithm, I guess.
Well, Zillow is an algorithmic tool.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what they use. They're not out there pricing.
Here's the thing: a realtor looking at comps is an algorithmic tool.
Yeah.
So what's I mean, do I have to disclose that? I did not blindly pick this price. I actually researched first to determine that this is the market value of my rental. Like, okay.
And application fees, again, that's stupid. You're basically, it becomes a reverse tax. Like, hey, in order for me to make sure I put the right person in there, I'm going to now have to, and if anything, the threshold for screening will just go higher. Cause like, all right, if I'm going to have 40, because here's the thing, I know this from offering incentives, right? I'm sure you've done this or made what I would consider a mistake is, oh man, I can't get this place rented. Maybe if I waive application fees, that upfront costs, I'll get it rented faster. But when you waive application fees, who are the people that apply? It's not your rock star tenant that you've been waiting 6 weeks for. It's everybody in the world that's like, hey, I'll throw my name in the hat.
Yep.
And you create a whole bunch more work for yourself and so forth.
Yeah, it becomes the people that aren't applying because they don't want to throw away $50 or $75 because they don't think they'll get approved. And all of a sudden it's free. Let me try. Right. It's not the person with a 600 credit score that knows they're going to get approved. And so, yeah, there's.
In all fairness, I do feel, but this goes with markets too, right? So I do feel it's unfair at times for tenants that even qualified tenants, right? That they have to apply 3 or 4 places and they're day late, dollar short each time. Now, a good property management company, for us, if we just approved someone this morning and you applied this morning, we're going to give you your money back. But there's a lot of companies that don't, and that's why you end up with some of this stuff. But that's a seasonality thing, and maybe seasonality is the wrong thing. It's a market thing. So back in 2008, when it was cheaper to buy a house and first put a security deposit down, like I couldn't get anyone to apply. So it's not like I was able to adjust my pricing based on that, or it wasn't like, so it just so happens we've been going through this trend for the last 10 years of upward pricing and downward inventory.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like if we built more properties for rent, that we'd get rid of all these problems.
Yeah, almost, right? It kind of feels like we've all been talking, especially in the property management industry, the theory of constraints, right? What's the number one problem you have right now, and throw every resource you have at it. And the number one problem that everything you and me talked about here is, hey, if there's more housing, there would be nothing. None of these issues would be even talking points. So it's like literally they're solving all these micro problems, but not throwing all of their resources behind the single problem that is the issue for people, human here in the state of Illinois right now. Yep.
And here's the thing, right? I mean, I'll take it out of housing just so I'm not being biased as a landlord and as a property manager. When America started putting tariffs on everything, what happened to all the pricing? Did the companies just say, oh, you know what, I'm going to eat and not make any money anymore? No, the prices went up because of the tariffs. When you start charging a landlord $20 a door, the rent's going to go up a couple bucks a month to pay for that. Like you're not helping affordability. You're making it worse by adding these things. If I have to pay for 10 rental applications now, because it's a cost, right? It's not like I'm charging the tenant this and not spending that money. That money goes to the software that's pulling their credit apps and stuff like that. So if I'm going to spend that, whoever does get the apartment is going to have to pay that extra $750. Like rent's going to keep going up. All these things create more and more rent price increases, not decreases.
Oh yeah, total pressure. And I think that's all the laws, right? I kind of want to. We got to wrap here in a couple minutes.
One more, but it'll be quick.
Okay.
It's also going to create the Bureau of Rental Housing Services. I really hope they have a cool badge. New city agency designed to enforce tenant protections, provide emergency eviction assistance, and regulate compliance. So I think that just
it sounds like bullshit.
But I would like the badge. Like
is that the building department right now? Badge. The building department does that basically now.
Yeah, but they don't. But again, they're the building department's so backwards on things too. It's.
But so is the theory of constraint, back to that, is that let's add a different department to just take some of these things off, or help the building department and throw your resources at it to help them be more efficient. So I get a record, for all of our properties, the 311 calls coming in. Think how many 311 calls come in on a daily basis in that city. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. And that's already, that is what that new department you're talking about would solve, one of the things they solve for, but that's already being worked on. I don't know. So. Yeah. All right. So any final thoughts, and then I'll kind of wrap up with some of my thoughts.
I think I've said it enough that a lot of these laws are just going to increase pricing and make it harder for people to find places to live. Because if a landlord is, you want to fix tenants getting approved and not having to get more tenants into housing, make evictions go faster. If I could get a tenant out in 60 days, I would take risks that I won't take now. And then if you want prices to go down, let us build more houses. That's the two main ways to actually solve the issues. But go ahead with what you got.
No, I just think our show is for landlords. We talk to landlords. We didn't have too many landlord tips here today, but overall, everything we just spewed out there, whether this passes or this doesn't pass, this river of regulations probably not going to stop between the local, call it the city or the county, and then the state, and then the federal side. I think we're going to keep getting whacked by this as investors. Now, I think this all sucks. It's a pain in the butt, and some of it's costing you business, but maybe that's just it. All this stuff is costing business. So if you're an investor, once you own that property and you're able to figure out, once you buy the right property and you're able to figure out, this almost creates a moat. If you're able to figure out the level of difficulty, or a hire property manager that knows how to do this stuff, ultimately all this is going to do is push higher rents. You're going to get more appreciation because they're still not building, right? That 15-year lead time that you have to actually catch up with new inventory actually making a dent. So you're going to have stuff go up. You're going to tenant retention. If tenants don't have anywhere to move, I mean, our lease renewal rate was crazy the last couple of years, like in the high 70s, low 80s. Like I forgot, and that's just crazy. Like a healthy economy should have people moving, a third of the time. So maybe you have a tenant in there for 36 months. That's crazy. And all of this builds a moat for you guys. Now, the other thing we talked about here about the institutional investor, this also keeps institutional investors out of some of these games as well too, especially Chicago. Even before we were talking about all this stuff, the institutional investor has always stayed away from Chicago specifically, Illinois in general, just down to stupid things of like, it just takes that much longer to evict somebody and they'll just stay out. It screws up their whole business model. So us as local real estate investors, call it mom and pop real estate investors, everything we talked about here today, as decadent as me and Tim might have sound, there is a moat this creates, and this is a competitive advantage that you can take advantage of. So don't let us discourage you. Buy properties, keep doing what you're doing. Just understand the game you're playing, and that's going to help you win.
Absolutely.
So you got anything to say, or can we go out on my high note of that speech?
No, I like the speech. I'm gonna let it go. I'm gonna let it ride.
All right, man. Tim, thank you so much. Week 20, I've enjoyed doing this 20 weeks, and we've gotten a lot of feedback from people watching this on replay. So, man, I appreciate this. I'm having fun doing it. I look forward to it every week. And listeners, if there's anything we can help you with your property, you have any problems you come across, maybe you got a tenant issue, maybe you're not sure how to do cash for keys, Tim's information's on here, my information on here. You know how to Google us. You know how to find us on Instagram. We'll get back to you. We're living and breathing this every day. We're here to help you. And we will see you next week.
Next Friday, right? I think
we're doing next Friday. So we're doing this Wednesday this week and next Friday next week. So
yeah, cool.
All right. Bye, everybody.